It was a dream of mine for over 10 years to visit South Korea, and it was incredible to finally make it a reality. But let's be honest, South Korea isn't cheap. On top of that, I actually only booked my trip 1 month before I left. To be precise, I booked everything on March 22nd, 2023, and then I flew out April 28th the following month. Normally, I would absolutely never recommend that. I usually always buy my tickets about 8 months in advance. My only regret is probably that I wasn't able to spend any more time in the country, but honestly, it's a really good excuse to be able to go back. So I spent 1 whole week in Seoul, so let's go ahead and actually break down what this trip cost. So I actually booked this trip on Expedia as a package, but I'm gonna go ahead and separate out the costs to give you more of a full picture. I also went on this trip with my boyfriend, so a lot of these costs are split, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what it would cost total and also what it would be with a single person at the end, so stick around for that. So whenever you go travel, you need somewhere to stay, so one of the biggest expenses is gonna be the accommodations. Now, as I said, I did buy this as part of a package, so having it be part of this did help bring the expenses down quite a bit, as well as the fact that I did split the cost with someone. So we stayed at the Stats Hotel Myeongdong 2 in Seoul, and it cost $940.46, or about $470.23 per person. The next big chunk of this is gonna be transportation, because it costs to get there, especially if you're flying from North America like I did. Flights, unless you get really lucky, last minute do tend to be very expensive. 2 round-trip tickets from Newark International Airport, which is in Newark, New Jersey, which is technically one of the 3 New York airports, and sure, to Incheon, South Korea, were $3,121.30. Ouch. It was a little pricey. Once we got to Korea, we needed to actually get to Seoul, which this is pretty standard for all major metropolitan cities. The airport is not actually in the city, so we had to get from Incheon to Seoul. Since we didn't land until about 4 p.m. KST, or Korea Standard Time, we opted for the express train, so it took us 45 minutes to get there, and this cost us about $30 US. Within Seoul, there is a pretty elaborate public transportation system that will get you pretty much anywhere, and also it is one of the cleanest, most elaborate, beautiful pieces of public infrastructure I think I have ever seen. It was on time, it was clean, it had bathrooms, with my other point of reference really being the one that I use on a daily basis, being the MTA. They could learn something. Regardless, we had to buy these cards called T-Money cards from a local convenience store. Honestly, we used cash for these completely, so based off the best of my memory, I think we spent about $30 each filling these up to ride throughout the week. The last major piece of transportation that we needed while we were in Seoul was our taxi from our hotel back to the airport so that we could make our 11:35 a.m. flight back to the US. We booked our taxi using Kakao T, which you're gonna wanna download, I would say, before you go, because they do not have Uber or Lyft. It was a 1-hour drive and it cost us $48.88. This made total transportation costs to be about $3,230.18, or $1,630.09 a person. Okay, this might be your favorite category. It's my favorite category, food. This is honestly one where I probably spoil myself the most, and it's really just because I get this sense where it's like I'm in this space, and when is the next time I'm going to be able to have an opportunity to eat said thing? So I might as well spend the money and enjoy it while I'm there. That's my philosophy. It's also going to vary wildly based on your eating habits and where you choose to go, so just make sure that you do take this with a grain of salt. This is really just my breakdown of how I ate while I was there. Also, a lot of this we did pay for in cash because cash is so prevalent in Korea. I've really done my best to remember as much as I can. We did have some things that were also credit cards. I do have some exact numbers, just throwing that out there. So the very first part of this trip, because I feel it is important to include the parts that led up to going to our trip. On our first flight, we did land in San Francisco, so our lunch in San Francisco while we were waiting for our next flight to Incheon was going to be $37.54, and that was for 2 meals. So the very first night that we were in Seoul, because obviously we ate our next meal on the plane, and I'm not counting that because it was included in our plane tickets. So we went and got Korean barbecue because of course we did. It was this restaurant called like Laon, I don't know, but it was in Myeongdong, pretty close to our hotel by this whole night market, and it was it was nice. We were able to pay with a credit card with this, so it was $76.80. And we also accidentally ordered way too much meat because we didn't realize we were ordering per piece. It was just a whole confusing thing. Regardless, it was freaking delicious. And I do think the prices were a bit elevated in this area because it did just feel very touristy. That's just my observation based on the prices of a lot of the other places that we ate throughout our trip. So we also went to a specialized pork barbecue spot, and that came to about only $30. We went to a specialized beef barbecue spot, which came out to also around $30. We also went and got lamb skewer barbecue, which I'm gonna be honest, there was a third person on this because we know people there that we visited, so one of them joined us for dinner. So this one was closer to $50 for all three of us. So we'll have to do a little bit more math there. We'll be fine. And then we also did one more barbecue spot, also in Myeongdong, and it was at this restaurant called Wangbi-jip. And that one cost us about $80. Now this was I would call all-inclusive sort of barbecue spot. So it was the one where you had lots of different meats to choose from. It was not specialty, but it was recommended to me actually on some travel blog, which I've never found since, but whoever it was, thank you for the recommendation because it was great. So we definitely got our fill of Korean barbecue on this trip, if you couldn't tell. But just to make a note, all of those places where we had barbecue, we also ordered drinks. So like those 30, 40 bucks, $50, all of that included alcohol on top of meat. So just saying. We also got Korean fried chicken, and if you've never had Korean fried chicken in Korea, oh my God, it was amazing. That cost us about $30, alcohol included. One of my favorite meals when we were there was from this location called Pro Soy Crab. I think that's actually what it said in English outside the restaurant, but it was in Gangnam. It was actually really, really close to the big fancy mall whose name I'm currently forgetting, but it has raw marinated soy crab, which if you like sushi, you would probably love this, but then the way you eat it really reminds me of going to like those, you know, what are the shrimp boil, like the seafood boils, like those. So it could be hard to eat, but I think it's worth it because you have to eat it slowly so you can savor and really enjoy it. Regardless, that cost us about $75. And this is part of one of those things where I say I'm in a special place, I'm eating something specific that could be potentially like really hard to find when I get home. So to us, it was worth every penny. We went to an instant ramen cafe for only $6. And this wasn't fancy at all, but it was just a really fun experience. And it was also completely unmanned, which you would never see in the US. There was a camera, so like they are like protected somewhat against thieves, but I was shocked that you just went in, paid, made your ramen, and that was all. It was crazy. We went to this cute little cafe called like, I think it's pronounced a Twasum, which I did use my card and it was $17.76. We got burgers at Namsan Tower because we needed a little bit of a Korean food break. That was about $30, which again, a little elevated just because it was a very touristy area. We had yukajang for breakfast one day. That came out to about $15. Kimchi fried rice and kimbap, which I remember was also a breakfast. And that only cost us, I think, $10. We had jampong and jjajangmyeon. That cost us only $20. And then we went to a bunch of different street vendors. So we had like tteokbokki and maya kimbap and all that stuff and hotteok. So with everything, and I know there was more, but I'm just gonna kind of do a rough estimate of maybe another $50 on street food because again, cash. Lunch at Incheon Airport was $15.18. And then breakfast in San Francisco on our way home was $17.23 for a single bacon, egg, and cheese, and it was awful. I learned my lesson to not have a bacon, egg, and cheese outside of New York. California, stop, you don't know what you're doing. So this brings our approximate food cost to $590.51, or about $295.26 a person. Now, of course, we can't go on vacation without activities, fun things to do. This is also going to be a category that varies very widely just because you might not like to do what I like to do. If you are like me and you like to go to historical spots, then if you go to Korea, you are in luck because they are extremely affordable. They're practically free. I was shocked. So we visited, let me try this, Gyeongbokgung Palace. And that cost us just about $4.52. We also went to Doksugung Palace, which also cost about $4.52. We went to the Seoul Prison Hall, which if you've never been, I mean, I highly just recommend going because it is a really dark part of Korea's history, and I think it's important to see that and not just the pop culture aspects now, because it really gives you a different appreciation for for the country and where they've come up the past couple of decades. Regardless, it cost us $4.55. That is one that I did put on my credit card. We went to the Jongmyo Shrine, which only cost us about $1.50 to get in. Okay, now those were the super cheap. Then we did a couple more things that were a bit more expensive. We did go to a sauna, and that cost us about $18.04. We went to Namsan Tower, which cost about $30. We did buy one of the heart locks at Namsan, which was $7.52. And then we did Noraebang more than once, but that cost us $41.36. As I said, you can definitely make these activities cheaper or way more expensive. It just completely depends on what you like to do on your trip. But for me, this came out to $112.01, or about $56 a person. So I'm not personally a very big souvenir person, especially over the years I've been buying less and less of them, just because I think my money is usually better well spent on the activities or towards the plane ticket, I guess, themselves. But there are sometimes things that I do like to bring home just as like really special mementos. But I did actually grab a few things while I was there, and one thing that I usually like to pick up wherever I go are magnets. So I actually did get myself, I think it's 2 magnets that I bought them both at Namsan Towers. I would say for both of them, I think I spent about 12 bucks. And honestly, these are really nice because they take up way less space than the mug collection I was trying to start, and I've had to start getting rid of because I just don't use them. They take up so much space, and who needs that many mugs? I don't. I also did buy a cute little coin purse at a street market that I know I gave the woman about 3,000 won for, which converts to about $2.26. And to me, I really love this because my old coin purse was getting kind of like icky. And so now I have this really cute one that I got, and I don't know if it's handmade, but I use it every day. And so to me, it was a really nice practical purchase. And finally, I did pick up some Korean skincare from Olive Young. And if you've never been to Olive Young, it is like the beauty skincare makeup store in Korea, and they are everywhere. So, I mean, there's plenty of other ones, but that's gonna be one that you see pretty frequently. And that costs $61.62. So obviously this category is also very flexible, but this is also an individual expense. So I only spent $75.88. So those are the main expenses that you usually worry about, I guess, whenever you go on a trip, but sometimes there are some other things that do tend to pop up. So we're gonna talk about fees and extras, and these aren't always fun, but it's just something I think you should keep in mind in case they are something that you have to deal with. So first, I did buy trip insurance on this because I bought it so close to my leaving date. In case something crazy happened, I would rather lose that money than the thousands of dollars that I spent to be able to go in the first place. And to me, trip insurance just always makes me feel better. Of course, always check your credit cards as well because you might be covered in that way, but this is what I did in this particular instance. So my trip insurance, I did buy it with my package when I purchased this through Expedia, and it was $300.88. I know I've mentioned cash a couple of times. I did take out a total of $526.81, but I'm not gonna count this in the total because I have mentioned all of the items that have been paid with cash. It's just kind of more of an FYI, that's how much I took out in total. Because of the cash withdrawal, I did incur an international transaction fee of $5.24. I used the hotel laundry at my hotel because I needed to clean my plain clothes. And for a washer and dryer, that cost me $6.08. Now, last but not least, I don't know if you're aware, but your local cell phone plan will not work when you're abroad. So you need to set up some sort of international data or get yourself an eSIM or a local SIM card. Now, I went the eSIM route, and I got mine through Olafly, and this was 8 gigabytes of data for 30 days, and it cost me $44.65. I also highly recommend that you give them a try. They were extremely reliable for me. It was very easy to set up, and if you want to save 5% off your first purchase, you can check out my link in the description below. So this brings fees and extras to $356.85 or $203.37 because obviously my boyfriend didn't pay for the SIM card or my foreign transaction fees. So, okay, that was a lot of numbers, and I'm sure you're like, cool, Emma, that's awesome. I didn't come to here to just hear a bunch of random numbers. What's the total? I got you, girl. I got you, it's coming. So the total cost for 2 people for a 1-week trip to Seoul, South Korea for me was $5,305.89 or about $2,715.83 a person. So of course, trips can be extremely customizable. They can either be you go super frugal, you go kind of medium like I did, or you can go extremely luxurious. You know, there are so many ways that you can do this, but I hope this gave you a realistic idea of what a quick quick 1-week trip to Seoul would realistically cost you. I hope this didn't break your heart because it really wasn't the cheapest vacation, but I did have an amazing time. And if I had booked it sooner, I probably could have gotten a much better deal, particularly on those plane tickets. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. It's a completely free way to support me and to keep getting more travel tips and tricks just like this. And if you want, next you can check out the vlogs that I did on my trip to Korea so you can see what some of these adventures actually looked like. I'll go ahead and leave the playlist right up here for you. And if you'd like, you can also read about my recommendations to Korea in my blog post, which I will put in the description below. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Slow down, hold on tight now. It's okay to meet me at the front line. I've got cold feet, winter drives me wild.